Here to give us a little bit of history of the IRS and our income tax from the FairTax organization is Marc Manieri.
Our income tax code went in the year 1776 from all of 0 pages to today's 67,000 pages. There's something very wrong with that. Do you agree with me? In fact, you all remember that date, 1776. It means a lot. It was the day that we declared, the year that we declared our independence from England. And ladies and gentlemen, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we declare our independence? Didn't we go to war, for God's sake, to start this country to get away from taxation? Or at least taxation without representation? What happened over the last 230 years is incredible and probably a little bit unfortunate, but here are the bullet points of our history. We didn't incur a tax until 1812. Why? Because we went to war. It was the War of 1812, and in wartime, when we're there to preserve the American way, we're generous people. The American individuals and Americans understand that we need to give to our government to protect our way of life. So we're sympathetic. We say okay for a little taxation during wartime. Well, in 1817, when that war ended, they repealed that tax. And the exact same thing happened in 1865. There was a 2% tax levied on the American people to fund the Civil War. But when it was over in 1872, we didn't stand for keeping that tax. American citizens spoke to their representatives and they said, we're not going to take this. And because of the pressure that American people and American citizens put on their elected officials, again, that tax was repealed. And that's exactly what we need to do again today. Ladies and gentlemen, it starts with us. The only way we can make change is by communicating consistently and effectively with our elected officials. And I'll tell you what else happened in the history of this incredible tax system is that in 1883, some businesses went bad. It's kind of happening today again. Some railroads and some banks went under. And what the Congress did was they levied an income tax. Well, what happened was, again, the American public wouldn't stand for that. In fact, the U.S. Supreme Court declared that unconstitutional, and again, they repealed that. And then, on a date that should live in infamy, February 12, 1913, Congress passed the 16th Amendment and ratified an income tax. And then, in 1943, they deceived the American public by creating tax withholding. You know what they called this bill? The tax forgiveness bill. Does that make any sense? No. They told Americans they would forgive all the taxes owed in 1942 if they voted for the bill. And so right now, ladies and gentlemen, at that moment in time is where we need to understand as citizens we have to take responsibility. Because at that point in time, we were living as instant gratification citizens. So we chose to accept the withholding tax so we wouldn't have to pay taxes for 1942. Well, guess what? What Congress did is they turned around and they put all those taxes owed to them from 1942 and just lumped it with the withholding tax in 43. They paid it anyway. So, there is a solution, and the solution, ladies and gentlemen, is the fair tax. I think we would all agree our tax system today is broken. And I think we would all agree we didn't get to this place in history. America is the leader that it is today because we evolved. We evolved as a citizens, we evolved as a country. And ladies and gentlemen, our tax code needs to evolve. How many of you, and rather than personal and corporate income taxes, Medicare taxes, Social Security taxes, estate tax, gift tax, the alternative minimum tax. These taxes will cease to exist. We will repeal the 16th Amendment. And we will fund the federal government through a national retail consumption tax. And it is absolutely brilliant. And here's what will happen when the fair tax gets passed. Right now, currently, there is 13 trillion, that was trillion with a T, of wealthy American businesses and American citizens' wealth that is being sheltered from our tax system sitting in offshore banking centers. The moment the fair tax gets passed, $13 trillion flows back into our economy. Would that help us? The fair tax would also make sure that every single American, whether legal or illegal, is contributing to this tax system. The underground economy is assessed at $2 trillion. These are illegal immigrants who aren't paying their taxes. These are criminals who aren't paying taxes and contributing to our great nation and our federal government. And the moment the fair tax gets passed, every single time these people purchase something, they contribute like they should be because they're in the United States of America. And I'll have to tell you, when I was first introduced to this concept, I was sitting in an airport, and somebody was reading this book. It's a pretty provocative cover, would you agree? And I was on my way to Mexico with my wife, and I picked up this book, and we got to Mexico, and she wasn't too happy with me because I couldn't put it down. If you haven't bought this book and educated yourself on the fair tax, that is step number one. You have to do it. You've got to understand, because, ladies and gentlemen, this will fix our economy. When the fair tax gets passed, we will become the global international financial leader. We will be able to afford to help other countries when they need our help, not borrow money and go deeper into debt when people need our help. Now, people ask me, well, why wouldn't everybody vote for it? Well, because there's people in this country that oppose it. And the only people in this country who oppose the fair tax are the people who stand to lose when the fair tax gets implemented. Who is that? The lobbyists and politicians that are being influenced by those lobbyists. Will we stand for that? No! We cannot afford to stand for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have a job today. You need to take action. You need to communicate with your elected officials that you support the fair tax, and you need to tell them specifically, unequivocally, they will not get your vote unless they make the fair tax the primary issue that they support for re-election. And I'll leave you with this. We don't need everyone, we just need the right ones. We need you. We need you to tell your neighbors and to tell everyone you know about the fair tax and get them to communicate with their elected officials. Because let me tell you something. When 5 to 10% of a politician's voter base communicates with them and says, this is an issue we want you to support or you won't get my vote, they listen. So your job is to tell every single person that you know, and it reminds me, and I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes. It goes like this. Can a small group of committed individuals dedicated to a worthy cause indeed make change in the world? It's the only thing that ever has. And it started back in 1770 with a small group of people that were committed to getting us under the tyranny of England. That is the reason why we have this great country today. So what you need to do, ladies and gentlemen, you need to get on the website fairtax.org and sign up. You need to get on fairtax.nation.org and sign up for that. And ladies and gentlemen, you need to tell every single people you know about the fair tax, because this, right here, this legislation that is sitting on Charlie Rangel's desk because he won't get off it, because he won't get reelected and he won't get the contributions from his lobbyists who tell him not to support this, he needs to hear from you. Your elected officials need to hear from you. Thank you for coming. Tell everyone you know about the fair tax. God bless you, and God bless America.